Welcome to Passion Inspires. Join us as we explore the world of marketing and design and share insights and stories that spark inspiration and drive meaningful change. I'd like to welcome everyone to Passion Inspires, and I'm honored to have Lisa Mathews with me today, CEO of 70x7 Life Recovery. And we've been working with 70x7 for 6 years now, and with you for about a year and a half or so, is that right?
Yeah, about a year and a half, 18 months.
So Lisa, tell me about 70x7 first of all. Why do you exist?
Well, 70x7 Life Recovery is an organization that serves men and women returning to society after incarceration. So when you come back to the free world after incarceration, it's nice to have an organization that's there to receive you, to encourage you, and to help you figure out what your path to freedom really looks like. So that's why we exist.
Yeah, I first got to know you when I interviewed Naka. He was my very first interview, and he had been in prison for 10 years. And that was a life-changing interview for me and really drew my heart into 70x7. Can you educate the audience a little bit? What are some of the very unique challenges that people face coming out of incarceration?
Yeah. Well, one of the terms that we frequently use is we call it collateral consequences. So imagine you're coming into a new community and you're looking for employment, you're looking for housing, you're maybe looking for a church community, you're looking for a place to make a new life. You can come into that without incarceration on your life record, and even then it's daunting. But if you step into that community with the collateral consequence of a felony or even a misdemeanor, and in general you pretty much have to share that, it can create a lot of barriers to success. Employers doing their due diligence in hiring are going to ask that question. And if you're trying to acquire housing, to rent an apartment or a house, they're going to ask that question. So you are usually at the bottom of the list when it comes to selecting who might have access to those resources. So what we do is we try to step into that and mediate those engagements. So we work with employers and we assure those potential employers that, we're going to mentor this person. We're going to journey with them with you. We're going to be in the background, ready to help if things get a little sideways here and there. We do that with our transitional housing, and we ask the community to come alongside and be mentors. To have a person that's your champion is going to be really critical to helping you navigate some of those challenges of the collateral consequences of incarceration.
And you also involve faith communities.
We do. We have more than 70 church partners. So these are, again, faith communities that have said, we want to be a safe place for the returning citizen. So they're internally working with their community, understanding safety, understanding what it means to be welcoming and receiving. And those are places where we can say to our returning citizens, this is a church that will welcome you. And we can have confidence that that is what will happen. That isn't always the truth in all churches. So it's nice to know that there are groups of churches within Kent and Ottawa County who say, yes, we are safe. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
So educate us a little bit on the internal struggles that someone faces coming out. For example, one simple example is when you're in jail or prison a period of time, you're not making any decisions whatsoever.
That's correct.
Can you share kind of like what that mental framework can be coming out?
Right. Yeah, it was enlightening for me to understand a concept called decision fatigue. And when you are incarcerated, you really don't have much room for making very many decisions. You don't choose what you wear. You don't choose what you eat. You don't choose what you do with your time. You don't choose what you read, when the lights come on, when the lights go off. So I think maybe a portion of your brain just sort of goes dormant. And then all of a sudden you're free, you're out in society, and you're making decisions all the time. What am I going to eat for breakfast? What time do I have to go to work? When am I going to take a shower? What am I going to do when I get to work? What clothes do I need? What shoes do I need? So many of our returning citizens are exhausted because they've stepped into this space of having to make a lot of decisions. So we try to help them anticipate what that feels like. And then we also try to help them anticipate that it's normal, it's okay. And, you will get more used to it. You just got to give yourself a little bit of time to acclimate.
So what other feelings do people have coming out of incarceration? For example, shame or wearing that label?
Yep.
What is happening in their hearts?
All of that is so hard. It's interesting. I just had a little lunch meeting, and a gal sat across from me, and I was just meeting her, and she's like, I really wanted to meet you. And we just sort of were getting to know each other. And she says, I really want to help returning citizens figure out how to navigate the bus system. It's something that I might take for granted.
Yeah.
She said, when I got out of prison, she said, I didn't know how to take the bus. It had changed so much. She said, we went from a flip phone to a smartphone. I didn't know how to work a smartphone. She said, you had to have a bus pass that you could buy on your phone. And she just started listing all of these things that were barriers to her for success. And I think that is a real challenge, because the world does not sit still while you are incarcerated. It's in constant motion. It's constantly evolving. And you and I are swimming in that stream at all times, and we're evolving with it. When you're incarcerated, you're not in the stream of society. And then when you step back into it, that river has moved. And now you're in a new river. And what does that look like? So there are a lot of overwhelming challenges that the returning citizen will face.
I felt like that just going to Africa for 6 months.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Well, I was just reading earlier interview that I had with Michael, who had been gone since 1990. Mm-hmm. I can't fathom stepping outside of prison and thinking you're in 1990 when it's 2020 or 21.
Exactly. So, it can be quite overwhelming. How do you use a smartphone? How am I going to get a vehicle? Just a lot of things that we have just evolved with, that the returning citizen hasn't had that opportunity.
So 70 times 7 doesn't help everyone. Obviously, you don't have the capacity to help everyone. Mm-hmm. But you and I have had conversations about that somebody really wants help. They don't want to end up back in prison.
Correct.
But
yes.
They just need someone alongside of them.
Right.
Can you kind of describe that a little bit, Lisa?
Yeah. When someone comes to us asking for help, we do engage them in some classes around the idea of mindset, of trying to adopt a mindset of personal success, and also of seeing yourself as part of your own solution. What we want to do is, because of the shame, and you mentioned that earlier, the shame that a person has because they've been incarcerated, sometimes that diminishes their ability to see themselves as successful. So what we want to do is breathe life on that, because we know it's there. We know that this person is made in God's image, and that there's that spark of the divine in them, and we want to unearth that a little bit. So we do try to help them with mindset. Not everyone comes along with us, though, and that's okay. But what the people that we are really the most successful with, and actually the most interested in working with, are the ones that say, yeah, I might not know everything about how to succeed, but I really want to figure it out, and I really want to partner together to see how we can do that. Those are the people that we are showing up for. We're passionate about engaging with you. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to do everything right. But what we do ask you to have is the desire within your heart to do well and to succeed. And if you have that, then we are a perfect partner for you. So,
tell me a little bit more about the name 70 times 7.
Yes. So 70 times 7 was started as just a little group in a church in Holland, Michigan. And the idea is, there's a passage in the book of Matthew where one of the disciples says to Jesus, how many times should I forgive? And once, twice, 3 times, and Jesus says, no, you should forgive 70 times 7. And really what he's saying is There's no limit on the number of times that we should forgive someone who has offended us. Now, I say that, and I can feel the hackles of some of your listeners or watchers rising, because that feels like forgiveness means that you're saying everything they do is okay. And that's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that when you forgive, you release yourself from holding that person. You release yourself from having that harm control you. And so we teach ourselves to do that at 70 times 7 Life Recovery, but we also attempt to help our participants learn that. Many of our participants have been harmed deeply and truly. They've been incarcerated in very dangerous and destructive environments. They maybe were harmed before they committed a crime by a parent or a partner. So that a lot of them seem to come to us with deep wounds. And unforgiveness can lead us to do terrible things in our woundedness. But we also try to help the society understand that forgiveness should be available to even the person who's been incarcerated. That we as a society need to offer that forgiveness. We're cheering them on. We're championing their new season of freedom. We want to support them as they live into that. And so forgiveness sort of permeates all of it. It's a profound and deeply beautiful thing if you can live into it to forgive. So
To forgive ourselves.
And forgive others, forgive those things in life that really want to destroy your ability to see yourself as succeeding. So
Yeah, I'd be a very depressed person if I was looked at through the lens of my worst moments.
yeah, right.
That I just had Father's Day, and what I loved is that my kids have forgiven. Some of them have forgiven me for my failures, because as a father, I had failures. And when you get embraced and loved in spite of those past failures, and want to move on in a loving relationship, that's such a joy there.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if this applies to not-for-profit realm, but, I've even experienced that with my own daughter who's 40 and, has come to me and shared ways that I don't want to say failed her, but ways that she was disappointed in me as a mother. And I can remember sitting in that moment, because what you want to do is say, but this is what I was hoping for. This is my heart. This was my intention, right?
Yeah.
Because our hearts are always pure in our own estimation. But one of the things that I've had to learn to do is to hold space for another person's woundedness.
Yes.
It's you're witnessing their reality. And we do that at 70 times 7. We can look at someone coming out and they can say, well, this is why I committed this crime. And you could say, well, there's no good reason for committing that crime. But instead of saying that, we hold space. We witness their reality, and we earn the right to say, okay, I understand why you think that happened and why that happened, but let's move forward together so that way it doesn't happen again, right?
That's right.
And that's where forgiveness really is sort of the balm over those wounds. It's not okay that you committed a crime. In fact, it's reprehensible, right?
Right.
But if we are going to have a fighting chance of moving that person from holding that identity of a criminal to one of a succeeding, returning citizen, we have to hold space for that wound. And we have to say, I am willing to forgive you as a member of society who was harmed by what you did. And I would love to facilitate you moving into a season of freedom where you can maybe even look at that and forgive yourself for what you did. And then we can start thinking about success and what that looks like. It's holy sacred work. with our families, with the people we serve, with the people we work with. It's just, it permeates all of that.
It applies
Yeah.
every relationship.
Yeah, it
doesn't
does, for sure.
it? Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember interviewing someone in the very beginning 6 years ago when they were talking about when they had gotten out of prison. They had gone to prison for some accounting, that it wasn't a violent act, but it still deserved punishment, right? But when they came to church, the foyer just parted. Like people saw him, recognized him, and didn't want to be with him. But what I've experienced the opposite when I've gone to some of your faith partners is that those relationships are thriving together.
Yes. Yes.
And I guess that could be kind of the lead into what we really want to talk about today, and why I really wanted you to come in here today was, how do we view those we serve? What kind of language do we, as a nonprofit, do we use about them? How do we look at them?
Yep. Them.
And I just want to open up the door for you, because I know there's a lot in your heart, and I'm not really sure where to begin. But
Yeah, I love it. I mean, so my background, I've been at 70 times 7 for a year and a half now, but my primary work in the last, 10 or 15 years has been the local church, other not-for-profit work, particularly in the realm of poverty alleviation. And I came into this work of poverty alleviation, particularly with women, single mothers, young families, with very much a rescue mentality. And, I had deep compassion and empathy, and I knew things, and I was here to help, right? And it took me a hot minute to realize that I was entirely in over my head. And part of the reason why I was so in over my head was I was neglecting to see the main asset within the conversation of poverty alleviation is the person who's asking for help. And we have a tendency to see a person in need, and we want to bring the resources to that situation. And that's appropriate, right? If you're hungry, you need food, we're going to give you food. If you need a job, we're going to help you find a job, right? But if we don't press pause and look at that person who's asking for help as being endowed with dignity, made in God's image, endowed with great gifts and talents, and having something to offer to their own situation, we have missed the point entirely, in my opinion. And I learned that very quickly, that I had to learn, again, to hold space, to sit with someone in their time of greatest need, and rather than rushing to solve the problem, to witness what was actually happening and to see if we could together forge a path forward that involved that person intricately in whatever decision and step we were making. So I had to learn very quickly the difference between relief and empowerment. Now, I don't empower anyone, but what I try to do is breathe life on the empowerment that's already within them, if I can, right? Relief is when it's a crisis. You're sleeping on the streets, let's find you a house. You don't have food, let's get you fed. But a lot of poverty alleviation is more about empowerment and development. It's, okay, we've solved this initial problem, but now how do we move towards involving you in what does it look like to systemically solve the situation that got you here in the first place? And that involves a whole lot of dignity, a whole lot of listening, and a whole lot of relationships. So I just found that the more I learned how to hold space and to witness and not feel like I was the savior, the more we could move towards mutual solutions that were long-lasting and transformative. So, just that dignified engagement for me is so critical to achieve success.
And it sounds like it's so much deeper than just making sure someone gets a job.
Yes.
It sounds like it's deeper in the sense that it's more genuine. Genuine, really, truly caring about that person
Right.
and their involvement with that process.
Right. It's very deep. It's very humbling. Well, I can tell you a story. I mentored a gal. Her name was Amber. I mentored her for about a year, and we would meet once a week. And I was helping her work on her budget. She had 2 little children. She was fleeing an abusive husband, and in constant fear. And so we met every week, and she would come, and we were working on a budget so that she could, maintain her finances, and we were helping her with some of her needs. And every week she would just heave out her mail, unopened.
Oh, wow.
And at first I was a little like, gee, I wish you would have opened that at home, and then we could get right to business, right?
Yeah.
But what I realized was she was overwhelmed by the mail because it represented what she needed to pay.
Oh.
She needed someone to just sit with her while she opened it. And so we spent about a year together, and in that year, she got sustainable housing. She got a raise at work because she was performing well. She paid down over $7,000 in debt. I went to court with her and sat with her in front of her abuser, and she was able to allow the courts to see, and they appropriately punished her abusive husband. And at the end of it, when I sat with her and I was like, tell me what was the most meaning for you when you came out of our journey together. And she said, I feel so proud that I can take my children to the movies.
Wow.
So simple, that I have the margin, the financial buffer, the freedom of choice, the autonomy to take my children to the movies. That represented for her just this great achievement. And, I listed off all the things that she achieved, and not one of those things did she say. But she said, I can take my children to the movies.
That's so beautiful.
And it's profoundly changed my life.
Yeah.
To spend that time with her, to see her resilience, her strength, her tenacity and creativity in solving problems. I really did very little other than just cheer her on, right?
Probably did it more.
But, she came out.
That sensitivity is so...
And she's still my friend. We're friends on Facebook, and, she's since remarried, and she's a successful mom, and her kids are teenagers now. And,
that's beautiful.
I could just tell that story all day because I just fell in love with her. I'm still in love with her. But it's the simple things that we take for granted, taking your kids to the movies, or, let's go on a Tuesday night and get some ice cream. We think that is not that much, but for someone who is very limited in their resources, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So, and to have that dignity to make that choice is huge. So.
Yeah, instead of looking down on that person that we're serving or as if we're superior.
Yeah.
One of the things that struck me when I interviewed Bob, who was a mentor at 70x7, he was talking about Antonio. And then he said about Antonio was that he had such great respect for Antonio because he had overcome greater challenges than what Bob
had overcome. Yeah.
Which is that's something to honor and respect and to look up to.
Yeah.
And the other part of their mentorship that I read this morning was that they became true friends.
Yeah.
Right? And they laughed together. They shared hard times together. They shared court together, just like what you're talking about.
Well, I love in Bob's story where he says he invited Antonio and his children to his home.
Yes.
And to me, that is the ultimate example of leveling the playing field between a person who says they're a mentor and a person who says they're a mentee. You invite that person into your home. There's no longer these titles, you're friends.
Yes, that's right.
And that to me was the moment where, oh yeah, that's what this is about.
Yeah.
And, going back to my mentor situation with Amber, there was a time when I let her stay in my home. She was in a difficult situation. And I was just like, oh, come on over. I've since learned that maybe I shouldn't do that, but I can't help myself. But I do feel like when we share, something about hospitality, and as followers of Christ, which I am one, there's something about sharing a meal together. That's very biblical, right?
Yeah.
And I think of, in the book of Acts where it says they broke bread together. I'm just pretty sure they were eating meals together.
For sure.
And I just think there's something about eating together that knits our hearts and sort of solidifies and gets us all on the same page when it comes to removing hierarchies in the way we connect with one another.
Yeah. That's one of my greatest joys is to have people over at our home and eating together.
Me too.
Good
I love
food.
it. Yeah.
Always making sure there's enough.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
I remember I was just like 21 years old, and someone had told me, hey, you should go to the migrant farms up north of Grand Rapids. They're here in the fall, and my motivation was to share God's love with the migrant families. Mm-hmm. But what I got was so much more than what I gave.
Yeah.
Like I would give 45 minutes to an hour of my time to be with them.
Mm-hmm.
And every time they would leave me with a bushel of apples, or they were always giving to me in ways it's like, wow, you so much greater than what I felt like I was giving. I learned from them.
Yeah. Well, and that to me tells me that in your heart you understand what I'm talking about because you were willing to receive from them. Many times when we are in a posture of helping someone and they offer us something, we're like, oh, no, I don't need that. You keep it because you need it more than me. And to me, there's nothing worse than saying that to someone who's offering you out of their, what they have, whether it's a meal or a bushel of apples, a flower. We need to receive from that because that elevates the dignity of the person, and you're communicating to them that they can give back, right?
Yeah.
And how good do we feel when we give, right?
Yeah.
So why cheat that person out of that opportunity? It's so critical to elevate their sense of personal dignity, I think.
Yeah, you're letting them feel like an equal human again.
Yeah.
I remember when I went into Muskegon prison where they were taking care of, some of the prisoners were taking care of paws dogs. And I could tell that, number one, with a dog, obviously there's no judgment.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Right.
They don't see us through that lens. So that helps in itself. And for these prisoners to be able to touch the dog, care for the dog, befriend the dog, it's almost like a healing process. Or maybe there's hope that they can do that in society again. And those were some precious moments to witness.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't, I've heard about programs where they use pets, whether it's cats or dogs, in prison environments and how it can, reduce violence and, people have something to focus on, something to care for.
Yeah.
And it creates that sense of purpose.
That's right.
It isn't often about who loves you, but it's about who you love.
Yeah.
That can really bring out that sense of purpose and doing good for yourself and for society.
Yeah.
Helping people figure that out is critical, I think. So.
I remember reading through the book Toxic Charity, and throughout the whole book, 150 pages, whatever the number of pages are, there was one story that I still remember that stood out to me the most. And that was of a African-American father, and there was an outreach that was helping people during Christmas time. And when the person who was sharing the gifts of Christmas, they came into the home, the father rescinded into a bedroom because he felt so much shame that he wasn't the one giving his child that gift. And then the author talked about how that, I think that nonprofit adjusted and saw that, and they allowed someone to work like for an hour to earn the gift, and that the father could bring the gift home.
Yeah.
things like that, sometimes we don't realize that we're actually hurting people when we're giving in a certain way.
Right.
So just for us to be sensitive and aware,
Mm-hmm.
to be careful, a little bit more thoughtful.
Yeah, I think always to have the helping lens through the lens of dignity. And I've encountered that myself where, an under-resourced family needs assistance. So they come to an agency to say, I need food, I need transportation. And usually it's the wife, the mom,
Yeah.
who is asking for help. And there is a dad, a father, partner in the background who's not asking for help. So, trying to find ways to understand those dynamics and to, invite that person into this conversation so it isn't shaming to them, but it's just, this is life.
Mm-hmm.
We're all going to ask for help at some point.
That's right.
And helping us understand that can go a long way towards elevating dignity. Now, I have encountered that very scenario that you just described in my own ministry work. And we did just that situation as well, where instead of just, asking a good-hearted family to go buy gifts for someone in need, we asked that good-hearted family to buy gifts that we would allow families to come to our store and purchase.
Beautiful.
So they could choose their children's gift. Dad could walk in and take a nominal amount of money out of his wallet and feel like he was participating in the success of his family at Christmas. So instead of a stranger choosing gifts, you get to choose them yourself, and you got to pay for them. And it was amazing to me to see that very situation where gifts were dropped off and the mom and the kids were there to receive them, to mom and dad and the kids came into the environment together and participated fully.
Wow.
A huge difference in tone and dignity.
Is there anything else about this topic, Lisa, that I may have missed?
Well, of course, there are always things that we miss.
I mean it.
But I think just, encouraging, many of us serve in not-for-profit helping environments because we do truly care. But, even in your own environment, whatever not-for-profit you might be leading in, if you're listening to this, having that self-reflection as a leader, are there areas where we can let go of power when we're serving others?
Yeah, it's a good lens.
Do we have a lot of checks and balances that we require in order for someone to access our services? When we do an intake, do we ask them, is every question that we ask necessary? Or is it invasive? Just having a lens where you can make it less about control and more about engagement. Sure, there might be someone who's taking advantage of the system, but you'll figure that out eventually anyways. And then you'll know, right?
Yeah.
But you don't start there. We start from dignity, and then we journey as long as we have permission to journey until one of you opts out, right?
Yeah.
But trying to find ways to remove barriers to entry, barriers to relationship, and barriers to engagement, to me is so important. And how fun is it when you don't have to be the gatekeeper to God's stuff, right?
That's right.
When you get to have that pipeline of abundance where you're giving it away in the context of relationship, and then you get to watch God provide more, right?
Yeah.
So losing the scarcity mentality and bringing in an abundance mentality, and I'm going to tell you, God shows up every time for that. I have never seen him let me down. So
that's beautiful. That's a beautiful way to put it.
For us, we have used a tool called Serving with Dignity, 7 sessions that guide you through understanding what does it mean to engage with someone from a perspective of dignity, to understand what do we mean we talk about asset-based community development, what does it mean to have grace, what does it mean to be to go closer to the problem, you're closer to the solution. So if organizations would like to have more concrete understanding of what some of these concepts might look like in their own environment, there is training and a tool that's available that can be utilized.
That's great.
Okay.
I just want to share one more thing. I grew up in a middle-class home where kind of the attitude was it's hard to forgive felons, and once a felon, always a felon. And when I was videoing Derek at church, in his church environment with his friends, it was so many beautiful moments of him interacting in the foyer or greeting people at the door or worshiping, singing praises with his wife, raising his hands. And just to see that all those labels were shed, and he's a brother. And
It's your brother, yeah.
It's just so beautiful to witness. And that's the fruit of 70 times 7.
Thank you. Yeah. We have lots of stories like that. And I'm personally honored to know so many returning citizens, people who've made a mistake, and have been able to successfully return to society with support and encouragement, mentoring. Believe it or not, there are hundreds of people within our communities that you could sit right next to and you might not know because we've successfully been able to partner with them in their new chapter of freedom.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, when I interviewed Naka, he had been in prison for 10 years, but he was really running drugs, always carrying a weapon. He had gunfights. He ended up 10 years incarcerated when his children were 3 and 4 years old. Came out when they're in junior high school.
yeah.
But to see Naka not as an ex-felon, but as a dad, and those moments that he was playing basketball with his kids, and just precious moments that one of his sons described. I love my dad because he helps put me to bed and tells, when I fall asleep, he's right there by me. I could go on and on of all the people that have impacted me.
Yeah,
through
and all the videos
work.
that you've done has given you proximity to so many cool stories.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure. That's amazing.
Well, thank you, Lisa, so much for joining
It's my
me.
pleasure. I love talking about this.
It's been an honor to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.